Do you know someone who died from something they actively denied or mocked? What happened to them? My uncle got in a drunken motorcycle wreck and had to have half his jaw rebuilt. Didn't take his antibiotics, because I never get sick. Well, he had never had his jaw rebuilt either. He died of the infection when it got to his brain. He died screaming in agony. That's my last memory of him. That American guy who went to North Sentinel Island to preach the gospel. Everyone told him not to because the tribe remained uncontacted for centuries and attacked outsiders on sight. They killed him immediately and buried him on the beach, where he is buried to this day. The lawyer that fought against helmet laws for motorcycles in Florida was killed along with his SO in a motorcycle crash. They ran into a trailer or something. My uncle thought that seatbelts were for cowards. He was a good driver, the drunk driver that killed him wasn't. My uncle. First went his eyes, then he couldn't walk, then his leg. Diabetes is a slow killer. You actively see someone die right in front of you, and unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about it. Especially if they refuse to change their eating habits. I didn't personally know them, but when I lived just outside of Yellowstone National Park, I met or saw quite a few people who thought the danger warnings were stupid/not for them, usually bison or hot springs. Was there when a person got gored by a bison 2 summers ago near Old Faithful? I think they lived, but there's an entire book cataloging deaths in the park, and a good number of them are people who just didn't listen to warnings and decided they needed to see how hot the clearly marked pool of boiling acid was or something. The CEO of OceanGate denied warnings from others about his soon-to-be grave submarine. He didn't listen. A coworker that became a good friend. She denied her fiancé/father of 2 youngest kids was an abuser. Even after a DV situation resulting in a broken nose, jaw, and lacerated spleen. She also denied she was addicted to meth and could stop anytime. He provided her the drugs. So when she broke up with him, within 1 week, was back. Always went back. He shot and killed the father of her 2 older kids, then shot and killed her, then ran over her body to make sure she was dead in front of her kids. In a Walgreens parking lot. He then committed suicide by cop. In 1 day, all 4 of her kids lost all their parents. This happened about 6 weeks ago, and I'm still reeling. He didn't die, but I'm nearly 30 and had never seen my dad going to a doctor's appointment for a checkup. He was obese, ate quite a lot, and did absolutely zero physical exercise, just as me, up until my late teens. Not even a question of money, we have free healthcare. He constantly joked that he'd never go to a doctor because doctors would say he was unhealthy and would forbid him from eating his favorite foods. At 59, he felt bad enough that he drove himself to the hospital. It was atherosclerosis and blood glucose of almost 400. He was immediately admitted, put on insulin and mandatory bed rest, and it took 1 week, 3 tries, and one of the country's lead doctors on cardiovascular surgery to unblock that artery and place a stent. Now he does in fact not eat most of his favorite foods regularly, but doesn't really deny himself anything. Just manages food a lot better. All the tourists in Hana, Maui, who don't heed the posted warnings and locals' advice about the flash floods. The last time we were there, 3 people had died in separate incidents. 2 went right under a waterfall and another died being swept out at Venus pools. So sad, and happens almost annually there. Wasn't necessarily mocked, but a few years ago my grandmother was extremely sick and in the hospital. She wasn't estimated to have much longer. My grandfather was having an affair with an old girlfriend in a different state and left my grandmother for dead. She became healthy enough to be moved to a nursing home where she decided to file for divorce, after 50 years of marriage. Within a year, almost to the day, she grew healthier, and he ultimately died of the same health issues she had back in the hospital. I work at a ski resort. People think that we are so strict about ducking ropes because we are greedy or don't want people to have fun. The reality is that once you cross that rope, if you aren't reported missing, we can't save you. The snow isn't groomed and you can fall right through it or even get pulled into a tree well. We will retrieve you in spring when the ice has thawed during body week. I had an acquaintance who died due to severe head trauma from a motorcycle accident. The accident occurred during a big motorcycle poker run he was participating in, a poker run protesting the new mandatory helmet law our state was enacting. I work in an ICU as an RN, also worked in emergency for years. From COVID denial, to cancer, to kidney failure, I have seen hundreds of people believe they're invincible. Alcoholism, speeding vehicles, fad diets, you name it, humans don't believe they can die. My own cousin was murdered by her boyfriend because she believed he loved her and denied the abuse. Speeding. Friend's cousin would always brag about how fast they drove everywhere and how good they were at it. One night he just wrapped himself around a tree. Supposedly he was sober too. My father refused to see doctors. Just one of those guys who outright rejected seeing a doc. He also smoked 2 packs of Marlboros a day. Even had their points catalog and merchandise. I called them cancer sticks to his face. By the time it was found, he had stage 4 lung cancer that at first reacted well to chemo and radiation, but eventually metastasized. He quit smoking the day diagnosed, but that's a ham sandwich chance in a daycare to do anything useful. Had he been found in early stages, the chemo and radiation had a significantly higher rate. Had he quit smoking when diagnosed with COPD 5 years prior? Nope, he had to have his break time. This podcast guy, Kevin Samuels, preached about women being unhealthy and overweight and how they are going to end up alone. He died alone and the cause of death was hypertension. Edit, one of K. Sam's children made a new account just to defend their daddy. LOL. I knew someone that always denied their alcoholism. They died from hepatic cirrhosis a couple of years ago. My friend who was all into healing crystals and natural remedies thought hospitals were dangerous and unhealthy. Died from sepsis after home childbirth. I got the polio vaccine in elementary school. Even that young, I was glad to get it. The only kid who didn't get the vaccine got polio and died. I still remember walking past their house and feeling sad but confused that his parents didn't let him get vaccinated. Just fucking unbelievable that people made up conspiracy theories about the COVID vax. In Falmouth, Michigan, up north, there were 2 brothers, pillars of the community. One owned a hardware store, the other a grocery store featuring a meat counter with great deals. They didn't get the vax, both caught COVID and died. Owner of a cute lil ice cream shop in Roscommon, Michigan, said the COVID vax was a government plot to control us. Got COVID and died. Really sad, as he had just reconnected with a woman he met in college. He called her Cupcake. A famous example would be Dale Earnhardt's refusal to wear the Hans device, referring to it as that damn noose. It probably would have saved his life. Suicide. If they joke about it, don't take it with a grain of salt. My grandmother always had a disdain for the geriatric population. She became 99. Not died, but I watched a guy sit down and mock how stupid someone was when they had managed to stab themselves in their hand. He proceeded to out a knife blade right through his hand. What are you gonna do, stab me? Mom. COVID. Wouldn't wear a mask, wanted visitors, big Thanksgiving, my sister attended got so sick she almost died, then my mother, refusing to go to hospital, sister not yet recovered went to check on her and had to call ambulance. But nothing helped. I'm an ER nurse. The number of people I watched die from a fake Chinese virus is high.